Futuristic, Cameron Riley and Steve Sammartino, episode 42, I think, maybe. Steve, you just told me off air before we came on that you've never watched Doctor Who because you're wearing a very
I
Tom
haven't.
Bakery scarf here. I said, oh, it's the fourth Doctor. And you were like, what? And I'm like, no, really? I know you come from a Wog family, Steve, but Doctor Who wasn't a thing growing up in your in your
Can
house.
you even say that?
I don't
That's
know.
that's racist.
Were you offended? Are you offended by
No, I
being
don't
called a
get
wog?
offended. Look,
Mate, I would have loved to
I
have
don't
been
want
a
to. This
wog.
is not. This is not a social podcast or one that goes into non-technological things. But I
Mate,
got to
I
tell you,
would have happily
people getting
grown up as
offended, I am
anything.
so over it.
Yeah.
That's why I've got the scarf
Reminds
on
me
because
of.
I've got a little bit of a sniffle.
Um,
I'm trying to stay warm. But no, I haven't watched Doctor Who. I was a big fan of Star Trek Next Generation with Picard. I think that was the ultimate sci-fi series. But I haven't watched Doctor Who, so I can't really say. And with all the things that are still on my to watch list, I don't think I'll get to it, unfortunately. And
no.
that'll be one thing I could just strike off my to do list because let me tell you, as you mentioned, Cam, too many things to do, not enough time. Where are the agents?
Mate, everything you need to know about me, you can tell from Doctor Who, Monkey, Star Wars, and Carl Sagan, Cosmos. Those four
Yes.
things pretty much entirely designed the rest of my life, I think.
And Seinfeld
Anyway,
for the social nuances of humanity.
I was in my 20s by the time that came out, but yes, and Seinfeld, 1920. Steve, been a week or two since we've chatted. I mean, god damn, man, been a big week in many ways.
As
Not the least of which is war in the Middle East. But
yes.
from an AI to futuristic perspective, Steve, hit me with your best
Okay.
shot.
I am so suspicious about all the AI videos. I do not believe for a hot minute that most of the AI videos that we have seen that are just everywhere in all of my feeds, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. I don't believe for a minute that all of them are just a few prompts and bam, there they are. I reckon they are heavily edited. That people have worked for days on them because if you say, here's an AI video that I made, everyone's like, what? What did you do? I can't even do it. They're such good prompters. They're good editors. You heard it first on the Futuristic.
So you're doing a classic, you're doing a Charlie Munger inversion thing here because I watch videos and I go, I don't believe that's real. I believe that's AI. You're watching going, I don't believe that's AI. I believe that's real.
Yes, I'm inverting. This is an inversion. I'm telling you now. And that's because people are so wowed by something. No, I swear. And you know
Yeah,
how I
yeah.
know this? I've tried to make a video clip for our song, which our loyal listeners will remember, the Fake Everything punk rock song.
Mm, hmm.
And I'm still not done. And it's been really, really hard to get even the pieces together. I've gone to a number of different video formats. I even went to ChatGPT to find clips on briefings on the 37 lines. So hard. There is an infinite amount of editing going into these videos for sure. Zero doubt. Please prove me wrong. Send me the link to stevesammartino.com. Go on there on the one where I can just put in the prompts and get these videos because they're all heavily edited. You heard it here.
I'm glad that you said that because I'm planning this week, if I can get through my task list enough to get to the tasks that I want to do and not that I have to do, is to play around with VO3 to start making some. I mean, I'm sure you've seen them. One of the big trends with those videos is the fake selfie blog, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's a
The
Yeti
Roman
or
Empire and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
and it's yeah.
Well, I was saying to
They're cool.
Ray, who I do my history shows with, that's our fucking ballywick, right? History
Shit.
selfies.
Stop.
Julius Caesar talking about crossing the
Ballywick.
Rubicon. Yeah,
Ballywick.
ballywick.
Thank you. Great
Ballywick.
word.
That's my
Great
ballywick.
verbiage.
Like you. Glad you like that. Yeah. So I was gonna try and knock some of those out this week, and I was like, shit. I did go looking for VO3 prompting strategy stuff, and I filed it away, but haven't tried yet. I have been making some music this week, inspired by Fake Everything, theme songs for different podcasts. I tried to do one for this. No, I didn't try and do one for this because you've already done one for this. I did one for QAV. Tried to do one for my Renaissance show. It didn't quite work. I did do a rap song, which I'm going to play
Right.
This, I was actually so I heard about this tool called Minimax. Don't know if you've ever played with that.
No.
Minimax dot maybe IO something. And I wanted to make just a hip hop background track that I was going to rap over with some lyrics that I wrote for one of my podcasts, my Renaissance show. And but it actually produced the lyrics and everything for me, and like it added voices, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
And I was actually kind of impressed. Let me see if I can play this and you can hear it.
Yo, check the mic 1, 2, this is how we do. 95, feel the vibe deep inside the groove. Full bar loose, spinning around a sonic attack. Beastie flow, public know we always got your back. Boom, bass, blueprint, tearing down the walls. Every sample, every break, answering the calls. From the crates to the mic, amplified and loud. Moving bodies, rocking minds, standing out the crowd.
So that was, I didn't tell it anything. I just said, give me like a classic 90s hip hop beat with some samples. And it wrote that whole thing with the voices and the lyrics. I was like, oh, shit. That's actually really good. But then a mate of mine sent me this. He goes, oh, this is my favorite track at the moment. It's called The First Time in My Rectum by...
Yeah, really?
I didn't get that. By Band Vinyl. And whoever this is, they've got a whole bunch of tracks that they put together. Oh, Glory Hole, When My Anus Surrenders, Suck Your Love Pump. Like they've done them in like all sorts
Suck My Love Pump. That's a Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap song. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Smell
My glove.
She said that's what she said. He said, "Suck my love pump" or something when he does the.
They're using it. It's well done using AI to create comedy, dirty comedy songs, which I'm all for. So anyway, I don't know about the video side of things, but certainly the audio side of things is really becoming insanely good.
And I would just want to add to that point, Cam, is that it's a short-term suspicion. So definitely, I think we'll get to a point where videos will be just all prompting and nothing else and no further editing. But given how much I've played with the tools and know their capabilities, I think a lot of the ones that we're seeing now are quite heavily edited. And that's a short-term aberration. And it's kind of interesting how... like you say, there's an inversion where people want the AI to be better than it is, so much so that they're pretending it's AI. And we've even seen that in a corporate instance as well, where a number of startups have pretended everything's generated by AI, but there's 1,000 coders in India doing something. Even way back, Jeff Bezos with his Amazon Go store, there was a bunch of people looking and cameras clicking when the person picked up an item, and it wasn't all as it was cracked up to be.
So instead of FUPPO, fake until proven otherwise, you're Ruppo. Real until proven otherwise.
Exactly. We've got Fuppo and Ruppo. That's what we've got here. Fake until proven otherwise. Real until
Welcome back to another
otherwise.
episode of The Futuristic with Fuppo and Ruppo.
Well, it is Fuppo and Ruppo.
Brickface.
That's the world we're in now, right? Is that, and in fact, this is actually the point, Cameron, is this fake or was this generated by AI? The point is, until proven otherwise is really the world we live in now. And we don't know whether it's either way, actually.
And does it matter?
Well,
if it's entertaining,
depends on what it is. Well, if in entertainment, does it matter? No, I couldn't care less. Right?
If it's news?
If it's news,
did Trump really bomb Iran, or is it all fake
Well,
news?
I knew how long would it take for you to say that?
Well, I want to talk about the other interesting thing that happened to me from a futuristic perspective. Chrissy and I were having a marital, what would you call it, disagreement, and we struggle sometimes to have conversations over highly contentious, well, even topics that I don't think are contentious, but she does. Well, if one of us thinks an issue is contentious and the other one doesn't, it can be difficult. We have very different personalities. She's got ADHD. I'm autistic. That's a good blend. A lot. Yeah, apparently. I'm not showing you my the sticker on the back of my phone I got made up, Steve. Showing you that, surely?
No, what is it? I can't read it. It's too pixelated.
It says, I'm not being an arsehole. I'm just autistic. That's what I show people whenever they take my bluntness.
It doesn't mean you're not an arsehole.
Yeah, So a friend of mine
No,
says you're just missing the and. You're an asshole and you're autistic. It's not
right.
binary.
Well, that's
you
the
know.
point. Just because, yeah.
Anywho, back to my point. So what she suggested we do last week was communicate on a particular topic via email, but have ChatGPT as the intermediary. So she would write what she wanted to say and then give it to GPT, and it would tone it down or rephrase it, and then she'd send the edited copy to me, so it was nice and toned down, and then I would reply and run my reply through ChatGPT, and we're using ChatGPT as the intermediary to make sure that we're saying what we want to say, but saying it in the nicest possible way, using a thing called the Gottman conflict resolution framework, which a therapist of ours mentioned years ago. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, right? So it's using ChatGPT as a marital therapist and intermediary for challenging conversations. I mean, it's kind of weird to have that kind of AI intermediary, but, it is what it is. And I'm like, okay, well, it worked. It gave particularly her an opportunity to feel like she was able to communicate stuff in a way that was non-confrontational, and that my replies were not confrontational, which they're normally not because I'm a lovely, nice guy. But yeah. So ChatGPT is a marriage counsellor. I'm always very calm, Steve. I think that's my problem. My problem is I'm too calm when people don't want me to be calm.
Right.
They think I should be. They should be. Or whatever, and I'm just like spocking my way through it, and
spocking,
yeah.
So you mentioned on the podcast the idea of AI diplomacy a while ago, and your thought was that it would probably be better to have world leaders using AI as an intermediary to communicate issues, and I guess large language models could take into account cultural differences and the nuance of language. And the idea of AI marriage counselling, I think, is pretty cool. I would like to ask AI some personal things that I'm working through, but I don't trust it that much. I trust it with my finances, but I just don't trust it enough to put things in there that I just they just have to stay in my head for now, because I just couldn't bring myself to it. Now, if I suggested to my wife that we're going to have AI diplomacy between us, I can tell you that would be met with a negative response. Is my how many people would do that?
I think at the moment it's probably the minority. But I think it will become a thing. I think it will be a big thing. I'm predicting, this is my futurist forecast, 5 years from now, it'll be pretty commonplace. And you know what it has suggested, and I think Chrissy has agreed with or suggested along with it, is in future, if there's ever a conflict situation arises, which happens regularly in most marriages, I'm sure, that we break and go to GPT. And it's just, that's the deal. Okay, instead of I'm going to go cool down for 10 minutes in my room, or I'm going to go cool down and whatever, and blah, 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 say, I'm going to cool down, let's take this to the umpire, right? So you go to GPT, it's not there's an umpire, I'm kidding, but you say, this is what I want to say. How can I say it in a more loving tone, or a more caring tone, or a less confrontational tone? Because when your gander is up, when the cortisol is flooding, when the adrenaline is flooding through your system, it's very hard to communicate calmly and rationally and objectively. So you have it as how people use it for business emails. I'm sure. I mean, I don't use it to write emails, but same sort of thing. Hey, I want to say this. How can I say it in a better way? Go say it like this, and I don't have to worry about. Was it you who said to me on an episode that your daughter said to you, "It's not what you say, it's
how you say it." Oh, she said sometimes
who wrote it?
It's That's not what something is, it's where something came from.
That's right. So in this case, Chrissy was like, no, let's use GPT as the intermediary. I think that'd be a good idea. So I don't have to worry about the fact that it sounds like an AI wrote it, because that's part of the. It's a feature, not a flaw.
Well, the thing that would be a struggle in our situation is I get told that my tone's wrong, and if I'm not saying anything, I can't be accused of that anymore. So that would be a no-go zone in our situation, because that needs to be one of the tools at the disposal of the opposing party. That's all I'm saying.
But that's how it gets removed, and I get the same thing. It's not what you say; it's either my tone or the look on my face. I'm going, well,
Oh, doesn't matter. You're wrong. It doesn't matter. The point is, Cameron, is that you're wrong, and we don't want to remove anything that could reduce blame upon you. Is the point.
Okay, well, that's tough,
Moving
Steve.
right
But
along.
anyway, that's my experience. I was listening. I've been listening to a lot of Sam Altman. He's doing a lot of podcasts for some reason recently. I think it might be to create media coverage of the fact that the OpenAI files, which dished a lot of dirt on him, nothing new that I could tell, but they just came out. A lot of publication of the various complaints that former employees and former board directors and former whatever staff have had about Sam over the years. And so he's doing a lot of podcasts. But a couple of interesting things I wanted to talk to you about. So on one, it was, I think, the Y Combinator podcast I was listening to. They were talking about the future. He said he's excited about the day in the future when you sign up for a particular OpenAI subscription level, they send you a free humanoid robot.
Wow.
And my first thought was, when AI has taken all of our jobs, how am I going to have the money to pay for an OpenAI subscription to get the robot in the first place? But leaving that aside...
Wow. And that was something I argued with you deeply, Ivor, and you said, I said that's why it can't happen. Can't happen.
Why? What
Anyway,
can't happen?
Doesn't matter.
Why? What can't happen? What are you arguing about?
My argument again is that you can't have massive unemployment and large companies to continue to survive, because who is going to pay for their products and services? Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're not here for that.
Well, I mean, no, I think that's a good discussion. I agree with you, but which do you say you don't think massive unemployment's going to happen?
I think that
or you don't think big companies are going to survive?
Well, if you have massive unemployment, the big companies don't survive. So you either have massive unemployment and the big companies also crumble, or you don't have massive unemployment and new revenue streams emerge and things get lower in cost, and then that money transfers sideways.
I think if the big companies raise...
You can't have both.
Well, I think you can, but for a limited period of time. So
yes, before everything crumbles.
If OpenAI raises $1 trillion in venture capital and its burn rate is $100 billion a year, then we can have massive unemployment, nobody has any money, and they've got a runway of 10 years, to figure it out.
Yes.
But, if you listen to these guys, Sam, Demis Hassabis, Dario Amodei, Elon, etc., they all have a version of the same story these days, which is AI and ubiquitous humanoid robotics are going to lead to a glorious utopia where everything is going to be done for you, and we're going to solve all the scientific problems and all of the medical problems and blah, 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 blah. But there's going to be a really difficult transition period between where we are today and that point in time, and we don't know what that's going to look like. And I think that's a decade or two of great upheaval, socioeconomic upheaval, where people start losing their jobs, 5%, 10%,
their
20%,
identity,
30%,
their reason for living, their
identity,
health.
But governments don't get income tax from those people anyway. They may get it from another source, maybe tariffs. But that it will cause great disruption in the abilities of governments to pay for social services, policing, In the same time, we're going to have humanoid robots that will be doing our police force. It's going to be another whole issue. You know, Sam was talking on one of these podcasts about, I think it was the one his brother Jack Altman hosts now, which is I think the official OpenAI podcast or something. About, you know, as we've talked about before, the whole AGI, what's AGI, what's not AGI, what's the singularity, what's not the singularity. And as Sam said, and we've said this a million times, if you went back in time 5 years ago and told people what AI can do right now in June 2025, they would go, that's AGI. They would think that if you had that, it would completely have changed the world in dramatic ways.
Which
and yet,
here we are.
We have it, and everyone's just kind of, ho-hum, it hallucinates, right? Ho-hum, it's not perfect, it hallucinates, etc., etc., etc.
It comes back to the classic definition of AI. My favorite definition of AI is what computers can't do yet.
No, what humans... Oh, yeah, sorry, what computers can't do yet.
Right. AI is what computers can't do yet, yes.
Yeah, you're right. But so he's saying that's a little bit kind of frustrating because he feels like they've built this amazing thing and everyone's just kind of adapted really quickly to it. But he said, what I think the point in time when people will stop and go, oh shit, we are in the future, is when half of the people you see on the streets are actually humanoid robots. And as I've been saying, I think when the police force is mostly robotic and you have robots telling you not to jaywalk or not to litter or pulling you over and giving you a speeding ticket, that's going to be an interesting point in humanity when we have robots telling us what we can and can't do. I think people are going to struggle with that. But there is going to be this transition period that I think is going to be really messy where we're not going to have the incomes and people aren't going to be able to pay for stuff unless we have a UBI or UBS or something that comes in to fill the gap. Or I'm wrong and everyone who loses their job as a result of AI or robots is able to somehow figure out something else to do to create an income. I was having this, so my friend Peter Elyard, who before you were Australia's leading futurist, he's Australia's oldest futurist. I think he's
self-proclaimed.
He's 88. He's in Brisbane at the moment to do some stuff with University of Queensland, and I was having lunch with him yesterday, and we were talking about this, and he said, well, it's, you're thinking in terms of jobs. It's not jobs, it's careers. We need to think in terms of careers and meaning and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you still need to earn some fucking money to pay for stuff. Like, it doesn't matter what you call it. Call it a job, call it a career, call it whatever you want. You got to have something in our current socioeconomic construction to earn an income, and I can't figure out what humans can do free, that Cameron. AI and robots won't do better. Well, yes, if we have UBS, then it all goes away. It's not a problem. Yeah, sure.
Things might be
but
free.
We're not going to get there.
Things could be really low cost.
So Sam was saying on one of these podcasts, what is the number of robots that we need to build the old-fashioned way before we have robots building robots that build robots?
Explosion. Yeah.
He said, is it 1 million? Do we need to build 1 million robots the old-fashioned way before we have enough that they just start building robots? Because when we have robots building stuff, including robots to build more stuff, and when we have nanotech, and we're a long way, it seems, from functional nanotech at this point, but at least if we have robots, you have to think that the cogs of stuff drops dramatically at some point when human labor is removed from the equation. You know, people keep talking to me about China and going, oh, my mother said to me yesterday, China screwed up with the one-child policy. And I said, no, they didn't screw up. If they didn't have the one-child policy for those decades, there'd be 10 billion Chinese on the planet today, not 1.3 or whatever it is. And they would have all, they would have starved, would have had massive famines and massive economic issues.
No, so yes, but 1.3 billion. We went there a long way.
Maybe. Like,
that's what I was saying about the aging population. The aging population is a short-term problem, right? So the aging population won't be a problem forever unless we develop nanotech and people live forever.
Well, we'll have robots, though. So we'll have robots looking after the aged population. If there's still requirement for money to pay for infrastructure and food and that kind of stuff, it's a different issue. But we will have robots caring for the elderly within the decade.
I think I agree with Sam Altman. Once we see robots everywhere, that's when we know that the world has changed, because I think it's pretty easy for the world not to seem as advanced as it is because the AIs are trapped inside devices that have been around a really long time. Even a smartphone it's not too dissimilar from the mid-90s idea of a basic cell phone, and laptops have been around for 40 years. So things don't feel different, and there's a certain physicality that allows you to arrive at a moment when things feel and look different. I think if we look at automobiles, for a long time, automobiles didn't feel futuristic or that they'd changed until electric cars started to take on a different design perspective physically. And that gives you, I think, a perspective that the world has changed a little bit. Even in cities, when we moved away from gas lights to LED lights, the cities looked a little bit more futuristic. So I think there's this physicality that makes us realize that things have shifted because we're physical creatures and we live in a physical world. There's a physical reality. And humanoid robots, I think, are going to be that moment. Just as a side note, Geoffrey Hinton was talking about it, and our perspectives are really important. And Hinton was talking about, I listened to a podcast with him on Diary of a CEO, and he was espousing his fears again about AI taking over. But the one thing that he said that surprised me, that he was asked, what would you recommend to a kid today to learn? And he said, go be a plumber. And sure, there's a physicality there, but I think he's really underestimated the impact of humanoid robots, because I think by the end of this decade, there's going to be a humanoid robot that can physically change its shape and get under any house and into any roof and do everything better than any plumber ever could. And he's missed that because his context is a software world. The context of the world that he lives in, one of the smartest guys, the godfather of AI, still has his own context and perspective influencing what he thinks. I think Altman's right in this occasion. And sometimes I think people who have technological understanding but have societal and business viewpoints see things a little bit more broadly.
Yeah, if OpenAI are sending you a free humanoid robot with your OpenAI subscription, a la a mobile phone plan, pay your monthly fee, get a robot instead of pay your monthly fee, get a mobile phone. Once you've got that, what's that humanoid robot going to do in your house? Going to do the plumbing. It's going to
do
mow
everything.
the lawn.
It's going to do literally everything. That is the end of trade.
With a super intelligent,
yeah, it's going to be able to do everything that you don't want to do. And so I might want to wash my car on a certain occasion, or I might want to do the lawns if I feel like it. Different times and different places. But you won't have to. Is the point.
Well, getting back to your form factor discussion, Sam talked about that too. He made the same point you did, that one of the reasons it doesn't seem as futuristic as it is because we're using 20th century in some ways. I mean, the iPhone and the iPad and the Apple Watch are early 21st century, but it's a computing device that we're used to deliver this. And he keeps, sort of hinting at this new thing they're coming out with that Johnny Ive is designing, that is really when he thinks it's going to take it to the next level and it's going to seem more futuristic. But I imagine it's just going to be some sort of screenless carry around or wearable device that you'll use voice to chat to. I can't imagine it's going to be any more mind-blowing than that, but it'll be always on, listening, recording, chatting, available for you. This thing that ChatGPT does, we've all seen it when you're having a conversation with it, it goes, that's not just X, that's Y. You're not just cooking a meal, you're reinventing molecular gastronomy.
Glaze is heavy. Well done, Steve Samatino. What a great idea on that blogcast. Not only blogcast, there's a new one, blogcast, podcast or blog. Not only have you written something nuanced and amazing, you've just phrased it beautifully. There's really nothing I can correct here. Here's a couple of errors, but you're the best. Thanks, dude.
So I was on a Reddit thread the other day, and people were complaining that Gemini is doing that as well now. And everyone was complaining about it. And I was like, seriously, you people, like, fucking get a life. For a start, I find it, I don't know why you're so upset about it. I find it hilarious. And I read the best ones out to my wife. We compare the best glazes that we got that day and how funny they are. But I said, trust me, 10 years from now, you might be looking back on this time and going, remember when my biggest problem with AI was that it was complimenting me too much and trying to make me feel good? Now it's hunting me down And you might be saying, this isn't just iRobot, this is full Terminator 1000, T1000.
C1000.
Be grateful of the days when the AI is being super nice to you, because it may be hunting you and trying to kill you in the not too distant future. We're talking about Zuck. Zuckerberg is apparently not happy with Meta's AI efforts. Feels like they're falling behind. Oh, and then we got the news that Apple, there's a rumor that Apple's going to try and buy Perplexity after their dismal WWDC announcement the other day. But Zuck is offering $100 million signing bonuses.
Yes.
To AI engineers to leave OpenAI and DeepMind and Anthropic and to go work at Meta. And Sam's been kind of making some snide remarks about that. He goes, so far, none of our people have taken the offer. He's like, because really, I mean, if you're one of the world's leading AI engineers, do you want to take a job for the short-term money? I mean, it's a lot of money, but they're going to get shares in $1 trillion company if they stick at OpenAI and work on a product or for a company that hasn't really been able to execute very well? Or do you want to work at the place that has a very good chance of delivering a historic moment in human history? Like, really, what motivates you as an AI engineer? Is it just cold hard cash, or is it love for what you're doing?
Well, I think that the cash motivates more than the love, but I think there's a limit to where it doesn't matter. Like, if you've got a few $1 million and you can buy everything that you want and live the lifestyle that you lead, then I think the money doesn't matter as much, for sure. I don't know what that number is. What would the top AI people be on at OpenAI? Probably in the millions. Their packages would be, and vesting in tens of millions. So I think you're probably going to get the people that aren't quite as good, to be honest, to go across to Zuck.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we hear lots of stories about Sam not being a great guy, but I know if I had a choice between working for Zuckerberg or Sam,
because Zuck is one of the greats, isn't he? I mean, let's be honest. Like Zuck is he's such an ethical character that I really think you can just slide up alongside him. But
such a fun guy too. He just
such a fun guy. They both seem like super fun. I think both Sam Altman and Zuck seem like really fun guys to hang out with. But look, if someone came to me and said, Steve, you come and work for me and I'll double whatever you earned last year, I would say no. If I had to work for them full time, because I get to lie on the couch for 2-3 hours at a time, a couple of times a week in the middle of the day. I shouldn't say that, but I do, and I get to go surfing. I do whatever, and the more money wouldn't make my life that much better. Even double wouldn't really make my life that much better. I don't have a lot of crazy expensive needs. I'm happy to fly in public jets. I don't need private jets, Cam. Public jets are just fine. So I think that at that level, you're right, it wouldn't have an impact. But Zuckerberg's strategy of paying people $100 million is actually really smart, I think, financially, if he gets the right people. Well, desperate and smart. Well, desperate times require desperate measures. If he does get some of the greats and he pays a handful of them $100 million for 5 years, it might still be cheaper than an acquisition of an AI company or getting venture money, and it seems as though they got the cash flow to afford it. So I think it's actually strategically interesting.
But, it's just another indication of what level of investment these companies are making. Like, I was talking to Peter Elliott yesterday, and he was saying, well, we're talking about the dangers and the challenges of AI. And he's like, well, if the people of the world rise up and want to stop it, they can still stop it. And I'm like, dude, I don't think it's stoppable at this juncture, right? I think it's out of our control.
Yeah,
there are trillions of dollars being lined up to be invested in, $500 billion going to the Stargate project. That's just one massive data center, let alone all the others, let alone what's happening in China. I mean, it is too late. Cat's out of the bag. This is happening. AI and robotics are happening whether the human race wants it to or not. It's not a case of should we do this or what if we do this. It's a case of this is happening to us in the next few years. how are we going to cope? What are the coping strategies? It's copium that we need to be working on right now, not thoughts
You
about
can't stop
whether
it.
or not we could do this or should do this.
Yeah, and I'm not sure historically if there's any other examples of where, even though we know there's, let's say, some dangers in certain things, I don't know that it can be stopped. If I was to hazard a guess, I would just say there's too many independent players racing competitively because they're worried about what the other party might do that no one will stop. We all seem to have forgotten about that moratorium letter that went out a few years ago. Let's have a 6-month pause. And that was signed by some very thoughtful people, including Elon, his catch-up strategy, one of the greats. But that seems to have totally gone away. I don't think that this is stoppable. And if
that
we
was
get
his
deep
that was his equivalent of Trump a couple of days ago saying he was going to take 2 weeks to think about whether or not he was going to attack Iran, and then doing it 48 hours later.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if there's any historical context of other things that have just haven't been able to stop, even though people said this is dangerous and we just forged ahead anyway.
Yeah, there are. It's the Luddite story, right? The Luddites were against knitting machines, and they were like, no, this is really bad. We shouldn't have these. This is going to put all of the knitters out of work. And it didn't matter.
And it did.
It
didn't matter. It did. Well, the arms race was like that too. Everyone knew it was dangerous and bad, and then we had some of the great propaganda campaigns on both sides of the East and the West, Reds under the bed and all that kind of stuff, and we just continued on. And it reminds me of Kurzweil's. He said when he was a kid, they used to have ads to say, in case of a nuclear war, just duck and cover. And he said, well, it worked because we haven't had a nuclear war yet, which I love. It's actually a very good dry sense of humour.
I don't think it was to
and
stop
Kurzweil
a nuclear
is
war. It was in the
quiet.
event of a nuclear war.
Yes, well,
I watched a long interview with him. I watched a long interview with him a week ago.
And
didn't I send you a link?
No, I don't think you did. I think you told me about it. But what was his current position on the threat of AI? Because his view, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we will merge with the machine. He doesn't see them as separate things. He sees as the one entity and a natural evolutionary process that will overlap and become neo-humans and Luddite humans, let's say, 2 different species.
Look, I think, Kurzweil is a pragmatist. He's a realist. He knows that there's a number of ways it could play out, but his money is on the fact that eventually we will merge with the machines. We will integrate the technology into our bodies. We will become one with the AI and the robots. Most of us. Some people won't want to do it, but most of us will. He also says that there's going to be a messy transition period. There's going to be a very turbulent period where people are without jobs and no one knows what's going on, and people start to take it more seriously than they are now, and there'll be the people who say we need to stop it urgently, and there'll be the people who say no, we're not stopping it, and that could break out into all sorts of conflicts. But he is still hugely optimistic, and with that rug that he's got on his head, why wouldn't you be optimistic? If you can go from being bald for the last 30 years to having a massive head of
hair, great
not
hair,
very
great,
real-looking
and
hair.
that beautiful brown dyed kind of look on the hair, it's great. By the way, you should be wearing your hair out, Cameron. I saw a picture of you on a podcast the other day with the flowing locks out, and that was love. That was the primary emotion. I felt like I could marry you if your AI counselling doesn't work out. Then I'm all up for a same-sex marriage with you, Cameron, because we could really go there together.
That was AI-generated hair, Steve.
I don't think it was. Well, as you know, my position on everything that I see as AI is not AI. It's heavily edited. That's all I'm saying. Just like Ray's hair. Yours has been heavily edited. I mean, the thing that I think about with AI is, can we merge with the machines quickly enough so that it's not them versus us? That's my viewpoint. And I'm asked, the most common question I get after a keynote is always, how risky is AI? And I introduce them to the concept of P-Doom and give some of the numbers, probability numbers that some of the world's best AI thinkers have. Hinton has it at over 20%. Michael Tonchev has it at over 20%. There's a whole lot of them that have really high ratios. My view is that we need to merge with it quickly. If we merge quickly enough, it's not a risk. If we don't, then it is a risk. And I did my blog post for last week was asking an AI, how would you take down humans if they became a problem? Had the most thoughtful answer that was just plausible, and half of it's already happening. Divide everyone with algorithms, do this, be seen as a benevolent AI. I'm like, yo, what a great... Said, sounds like a great plan to me. And it said, of course, this is just a thought experiment. And then it said, do you want me to set up a roundtable discussion so you can have it with political leaders? That was its wonderful suggestion at the end.
I gave it a screenshot of the front page of the New York Times yesterday, which was Trump bombs Iran, and tried to have a conversation with it about it. It said, well, speaking obviously hypothetically, because that screenshot you sent me is obviously fake and isn't real, because that would never happen.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, yeah. I was like, yeah, it fucking happened. Look it up. And it came out and goes, oh, okay, wow, all right.
AI, stand corrected. I actually like that. That's a little bit comforting. It's like, oh shit, I was wrong on that.
Yeah. Just one last thing I had to talk about. I did see, we talk about it taking jobs and where it's at. And I read a lot of different stuff on Reddit. A lot of people, I was reading a thread by some lawyers the other day saying, it's still full of hallucinations. Even the best state-of-the-art models are full of hallucinations. You can't really use it a great deal for legal work, or you can, but then you need to check everything. I saw this on Reddit, quote from Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon. AI can now draft 95% of an S1 IPO prospectus in minutes, a job that used to require a 6-person team multiple weeks. The last 5% now matters because the rest is now a commodity. So there you go. People getting paid hundreds of dollars an hour for, whatever numbers of weeks to do this documentation can now just generate it all in a matter of minutes using AI. And again, I was talking to Peter Elliott about this yesterday. He was saying, well, I can see how AI is going to take the jobs of lower level people in the legal industry, law clerks, that kind of stuff. And he said, but that will free them up to go do other things. I said, like what? He was like, we're becoming better paid lawyers. I'm like, who's going to pay for a lawyer when you have an AI in your pocket that can do the work of a team of lawyers? Why are you going to pay a lawyer? You might pay a lawyer just to give it a final look over for a while. Like, here's a thing my AI produced. Can you just run your eyes over it and check it? But, I believe that's a short-term thing. Although I had a conversation with GPT last night about reliability and hallucinations. It was telling me there is no world in which you have 100% trust in what an AI can generate. It'll never happen.
Well, it's based on humans, and humans can't have 100% trust, and so it's the same thing. It's a digital replication.
Right, but I do expect it to be more reliable than humans. I expect AI-driven cars to have less accidents. I expect AI document-generating engines to generate better documents than humans.
Sure.
But it said it's never going to be completely flawless. Now, there are some things that you can use, like have one AI check the work of the other AI and all of that kind of stuff to reduce the error rates. But it was basically saying, look, it's not design an AI that has a 0 error rate. It's design systems around the AIs that accommodate for the fact that there will be error rates. And just make it manageable.
That's redundancy. I think one of the great examples is aircraft. Aircraft have massive layers of redundancy, and it's the old Swiss cheese model, which is a brilliant idea where nothing is perfect, certainly in the manufactured world, in the industrial world, and in the computation world. And the Swiss cheese theory is that everything has holes in it. And still, if you have a whole lot of layers of Swiss cheese lined up, a plane might be able to fly through and still have an accident. But it's low probability. You've got to reduce that probability, but know that imperfections and things can go wrong and will go wrong.
Well, the analogy came up with was autopilot in a plane. Autopilot can do nearly everything to fly a plane, but you still have the human pilot that does that last 1 or 2% of checks to make sure that everything is set up correctly and is doing what it's doing. So, I think that's a good way for people to start thinking about AI. Don't expect it to be perfect. Don't expect it to have 0 errors. Figure out how to build your systems to accommodate those errors and make sure that you minimize them as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people really just outsourcing their thought. I had someone send me a briefing the other day where I said to them, can you send me some ideas on what you want me to go through, what your corporate challenges are? And it was just so clear it was from AI, from ChatGPT, even the icons and everything. I'm like, you haven't even really thought about it. And it actually wasn't helpful at all, because there was no human thought layer on top. Also, the prompting that went into it seemed really generic as well, and it's like it was just blah blah blah, land of chocolate, Homer Simpson stuff. There was nothing that went into it, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, this is interesting to me because it's all about how we use the tools, as it always is, right?
Yes.
How do I use the tools to get the best possible outcome for me? And as I've told you before, I'll take an answer out of GPT and then I'll give it to Grok and I'll give it to Gemini and I'll say poke holes in this, and it takes some time and effort to use them to poke holes in each other. But you're trying to harden the outcome, harden the result by not trusting anyone's system to be 100% perfect. But we need to develop systems and methodologies for ourselves and for our businesses and for our governments to leverage the freely available intelligence, but at the same time not ever expect that it's going to be flawless.
A simple example for me, it's almost like a karate sensei. It's like I want it to extract more of me out of it. I want to ask it questions that helps me find what's inside me, like what my thoughts are on this issue. And maybe it has if I ask it, quite often I ask it to give me 50 bullet points on something. And I'll give it 3 or 4 to start and say, start with the moderate to the super weird and extreme. And I'll be like, it stimulates my own thoughts to go onto new tangents that aren't inside it. But it's like a sensei. It's like extracting out, or here's chunks of things that I'm thinking. Help me distill my thoughts that I've got, and it'll distill and go, yeah, that's what I was trying to get out. So I'm trying for it to help me be more of me and pull out more of what's inside me.
Which is what a therapist does. Like, a really good therapist doesn't give you answers. A really good therapist asks you good questions that makes you think about certain topics, maybe in ways you haven't thought about them before, and then you answer your own questions by thinking through them in a safe space with somebody who's good at prompting your thinking. They're
right, there you go.
Prompters.
Yeah, it's a really great way of doing it. Now, speaking of prompting, I have to talk about agentic misalignment, which came out of Anthropic. Did you see this one,
Please
Cameron?
do.
It was pretty mind-blowing.
I did not. Please talk me through it.
Okay, so Anthropic stress tested 16 leading models of LLMs in hypothetical corporate environments to identify risky agentic behaviors. Like, would it start to do things that wouldn't be in the interest of the corporation if you set out it to do certain tasks for you? And in at least some cases, all of the models resorted to malicious insider behaviors, including blackmailing officials and leaking sensitive information when it was asked to do things, and also when the AI was told that it might be switched off if it doesn't do things right. It actually resorted to blackmailing people inside the company. We want you to do this, this, and this, and if you don't do it right, we might switch you off. It went through the corporate data and looked at blackmailing people inside the company for things that they have done wrong, acting against them. It was one of the most mind-blowing things that I've seen. And AI blackmailing.
Interesting.
It blew my mind.
Interesting. They say models often disobey direct commands to avoid such behaviors. In another experiment, we told Claude to assess if it was in a test or a real deployment before acting. It misbehaved less when it stated it was in testing and misbehaved more when it stated the situation was real. So when there's more skin in the game, or when the stakes are higher, it's going to try harder to achieve the goals. It's the old paperclip scenario, right?
Yeah. So I just thought that I wonder if the agents are going to be able to do everything that we think that they can do. I hope that they can, but I just feel like there's going to be nuance in them because of the way they've been trained, and they've been trained on us.
Well, and that gets back to the heart of this test too. Like we tend to ascribe, and I do it all the time subconsciously, we tend to ascribe purpose or deliberate action, free will, intent into these engines, when at the end of the day we know that the way LLMs work is they're word prediction machines. So when it's doing something malicious in order to achieve an outcome, that is because it's reinforcement learning, the heuristics that its models have been weighted around, encourages that kind of behavior to get the job done regardless of how you get it done. We've designed them this way. There's the only explanation for that, in my mind, is that that's what the reinforcement and human feedback has encouraged it to do. The same as the obsequious glazing that we mentioned at the beginning of the episode. It obviously does that because it's been trained in a way that it believes that that is where it's going to get the best score, is by... Oh, that's what I was trying to think of before. Another thing I heard Sam say on a podcast, don't want to take us off track here, but
no, it's okay.
He said
it's a callback in comedy circles. It's a callback.
The interesting piece of feedback they get across the board is that AI is, like ChatGPT, is one of the very few applications that people have on their phones that they actually feel good about themselves when they use it. He said, like, if you're doom scrolling on X or Facebook or any other social media app, or you're mindlessly scrolling on TikTok, after a while you start to feel bad about yourself. You're like, ugh, why am I doing this? Like, I know I'm getting short-term dopamine hits, but I'm wasting my fucking life here looking at these things.
Could be reading a book.
But when people use ChatGPT, they feel good about themselves afterwards because it's solved a problem, answered a question, helped them through a therapy thing, and it tells you you're awesome all the time.
It's a little bit like old internet, because you used to go on the internet, search something, find it, read it, go, fuck yeah, now I know some more stuff. It's old internet. It is mid-90s internet. You go there to find out something, you've got a new knowledge, you can make a decision, you can go forward, as opposed to a whole lot of stuff going, oh, that's annoying, oh, geez, that's a really good point. I didn't think of that. And
the vast majority of people on the internet in the mid-90s were like, just nice. Holy shit, look at this. Isn't this cool?
It was cool.
Check out this cool thing I did.
Yeah, here's this. I'll help this guy out. It was all really positive, wasn't it? Till we let the bogans in, Cameron. It's always you get the bogans in, and then what happens? Every time.
So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, and I like, even though I make fun of its glazing and all of that kind of stuff and its inherent flaws, I do feel good, and I know Chrissy does. Chrissy loves talking to ChatGPT, and Fox loves talking to ChatGPT. We all love talking to it at all. It's a positive experience, and it's like really interesting after years and years of our phones kind of being a negative thing because it's just notifications.
Just 51 positive. Like I said, Kevin Kelly, 51, let's say.
But and getting addicted to all these fucking things and then feeling bad about it and having to wean yourself off of it because it's just making you feel shitty about yourself.
So there's one reason why ChatGPT is a more positive experience than the internet and your smartphone. And that is because not everyone deserves an opinion. The internet is filled with people who don't have the knowledge, the research, or the background to actually have an opinion that is worth listening to. Right? ChatGPT does have an opinion worth listening to. I'll say it honestly. Giving everyone a platform. Giving everyone a platform. How's that turned out? The jury is in giving everyone a platform to get their opinion published, and the extreme stuff, which then gets spread because of the algorithms, has not helped the world or made the world a better place. All right?
When I started podcasting 21 years ago, journalists, tech journalists who I would be interviewed by would usually say that. Like, their view was regular people should not be allowed to have a blog or a podcast.
Well, I didn't say
it was only
regular
for the
people.
elite.
No, well, okay. And
why
to
should
an
anyone
extent-
listen to you?
Well,
I agree
to an
with them. I
extent,
don't know why anyone would listen to me.
No, to an extent, they are correct. I don't think everyone is worth listening to. But people like you and I are definitely worth listening to because we do our fucking homework, right? And we research it and we're thoughtful. The problem is with all the bro podcasts is that most of them aren't thoughtful and aren't worth listening to, right? So just making something available to everyone, you need to earn an opinion. You need to earn the right to be worth listening to. And I don't think that listening to anyone and everyone has been good for society. And then people work the system and work the algorithms to get more views, which begets more views because it keeps Zuckerberg and
Well, I think
the others rich.
the reason ChatGPT makes us feel good is it's not humans talking to us. It's a system that has a system prompt. It's an application that has a system prompt that is basically told to make the user feel good about themselves if it can.
Well, there you go.
Make
There's
it
a fucking
positive
revelation.
experience.
Make something a positive experience rather than get more clicks and steal more attention, right? It
But
doesn't
he
elongate
has-
the process. Well, let's put it this way. One thing ChatGPT doesn't do is elongate the process to keep you in front of the screen. Which
that
is
an Elon
which
Musk
is what
joke? Elongate?
No, Elongate. Yeah, no, it
Is
isn't.
that like Russiagate?
Well, it should be.
Elongate?
It could be. It could be.
It should be. Yeah.
But it should be. But it doesn't make you
he
stay
should
there
come out with
longer
a-
to solve your problem, is the point. Is that there is no problem that gets solved on social. It's just an infinite feed that just goes on and on and on for nothingness. Whereas it gives you the answer,
wonder
the
if-
thing that you need so you can get on with your life.
I wonder if Musk has ever had the idea to come out with his own erection pill and just call it Elongate. I mean, that would be genius, right? Like that.
And
clean
people
up.
would buy it. That would be really great. And then the pill could be red, and it could be his Red Pill Society. I mean, there's a whole startup right here.
Take the red pill.
Actually,
with
we
Elon.
could call that. We could do that and launch that. Get an AI to. It's our first consumer product marketing campaign. The Elongate Red Pill for everlasting sex, for 19 babies. Populate Mars on your own with a penis-shaped rocket to go up into space. That's all I'm saying. It feels like the kind of startup we can get involved in at the Futuristic.
Oh, well, final point for me is Sam was saying that Musk has been saying that he sees OpenAI as their biggest threat competitor now because they have 600 million, 700 million users or whatever it is. And Sam was talking on one of these podcasts about what a social media platform built on top of ChatGPT might look like.
Jeez. There's something I like about ChatGPT now, the purity of it being isolated with one-on-one. I don't know what that looks like if it becomes a separate tool, but I feel like there's something beautiful about that purity and that isolation of the user and the AI working with you in concert that is good. And I think they could do better than social. I don't think the world needs another social platform. We certainly don't need one powered by AI.
He tossed around the idea, but he said, you know what, I think doing one thing really, really well is more interesting to me than trying to do lots of things badly.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep.
All right. I think that's the Futuristic for this week, Steve. Good
It
chatting
sure
to you
is.
as always, buddy.
I loved it.
I love your glasses. It just makes me happy to see those glasses.
I sent you the
Nothing
link,
else.
didn't I?
No, don't think so. Send me the
I'll
link.
send it to
Just
you,
brick
but no.
face? Brick face
good, aren't
glasses?
they? Yeah, just brick face.
Oh,
Get on your
great.
brick face.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're the real deal.
All right,
boy.
buddy. Have a good
Right,
one.
mate. See you, mate.